Today we've been traveling around towards Stones River, and we've toured the Battle of Nashville, and I was fortunate enough to contract Ross Massey, a professional historian, author, and tour guide. Ross, how are you today?
Wonderful. Glad you came.
Glad to have been here. Thank you for the wonderful tour today. Can you tell us a little bit about why the Battle of Nashville was so important and what it meant to both the Union and the Confederates?
I think of the Battle of Nashville as really different battles. So Nashville fell when Fort Donelson fell in 1862, earlier in the war. That was the first great victory for the United States forces, and the war was almost a year old. The naval flotilla was unable to take Fort Donelson, but U.S. Grant came up, surrounded the fort, and with that, the iron industry in Middle Tennessee fell, and Nashville. So Nashville was a manufacturing center, more than a lot of Confederate cities. We had 2 medical schools. Only Philadelphia had 2 medical schools. We were a state capital. It was an educated, affluent city with a good population class. So the capture of Nashville was just a byproduct of the fall of Fort Donelson. For whatever reason, Albert Sidney Johnston, the Confederate general, made no effort to hold Nashville. He abandoned Nashville. That is a major blow to the Confederacy earlier in the war, and Confederate soldiers are going to want to get Nashville back through the entire war. You can look 2 months after Fort Donelson at Shiloh, off to the southwest. It was largely a battle resulting in the fall of Nashville and hopes of recuperating it. Bragg's campaign into Kentucky was hope that Nashville would be abandoned. Murfreesboro, where we went today, Bragg's army's parked 30 miles out here to the southeast, and he's hoping to find an opportunity to retake Nashville. Even after Chickamauga, the Confederate soldiers are thinking, now after this victory, surely we can go back and recoup Nashville. The first real effort is going to be toward the end of the war, and that's the Battle of Nashville, December '64, nearly 3 years after Nashville was abandoned. John Bell Hood's going to bring a Confederate army here to try to retake the city, and he's really got no chance of doing it. The war's really over. It's a sad story. It's a unique story. The sites we've got here in Nashville are unique. You generally go to battlefields and you're not going to see stone forts. We've got the largest inland fort built during the war of stone, not a dirt fort. We've got women rallying troops at 2 different places on the battlefield. I don't know of another battlefield like that. We've got a naval flotilla fighting on the banks of the Cumberland, and I have found earthworks and other earthworks that were known to have existed before I found them, and so you can now come to Nashville and take a battlefield tour. Most people come and want a tour of about 4 hours. If you really want to know more details, 6 hours or even longer. Depends on your level of interest.
So we did a tour today about 8 hours in length. It was a long tour, but it was excellent, and I will tell you, Ross's knowledge is just beyond comparison. And Household 6 and I learned so much about Stones River. We learned so much about the Battle of Nashville. If folks wanted to come to Nashville and have a Civil War talk, how would they go ahead and get in contact with you?
Best thing to do is just call me during business hours. Hopefully we're on Central Time, so area 615-352-6384.
And you were a member of the local Sons of Confederate Veterans, Camp 28, Joseph E. Johnston.
Correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about your camp's efforts to preserve Civil War sites here within the city?
I came to this cemetery, Mount Olivet, in '91 because I knew there were 7 Confederate generals buried here, and I began wandering through the cemetery trying to locate them. There was really no information in '91. 2 years later, I went to the McGavock Cemetery at Franklin, and that's where the Confederate dead from the Battle of Franklin are buried, and they had done a living history walking tour with people standing at the graves doing soldiers' parts. And I thought, well, if they can do that so well doing just soldiers, imagine Mount Olivet, where we've got women spies, women who rallied troops in the Battle of Nashville. We've got John Bell right there, who ran against Lincoln for president, and a host of privates. We've got a Confederate Marine back here. We just went to look at his grave because you served in the U.S. Marines. So there was a diversity of stories, and we began doing a walk-in tour, and we did it for 23 years here with much success. raising money, and for countless improvements I could point out here. We've converted the tour. I'm no longer in charge. When the newspapers died, we really couldn't get the word out, and I decided to turn it over to somebody younger. The strange thing is, after doing it for 23 years, I started when I was about 34. 23 years later, do the math, the people that I know are kind of old to be doing Confederate soldiers. So back in the 90s, we were all a lot younger. It's kind of hard to take people that eat a lot and have gray hair to portray Confederate soldiers. So we're still doing a tour in October, but it's a little different tour. It's not a totally Confederate tour, but the proceeds, profits, have gone to all these projects here. Also, we saved a fort we saw today. There was an earthen fort the Confederates built for the Battle of Nashville. A couple of miles behind us, popularly known as Granbury's Lunette, for one of the generals that was killed at the Battle of Franklin, Hiram Granbury. His brigade still fought here. Texans were great. They held this lunette during the Battle of Nashville. Our camp got control through an easement of what's left of the lunette. You can go see it. And then there's other groups like the Battle of Nashville Preservation Society and other groups who have worked the city of Nashville to open sites. So if you go back 25 years ago and asked for a tour of the Battle of Nashville, the answer you'd have probably gotten is there's nothing to see. And people believe that. They believe there was nothing to see. But there is a lot to see now.
The story here in Nashville is extremely significant when it's woven into the tapestry of the rest of the American Civil War. And one thing that I like to do as the Civil War traveler is travel to battlefields that fall outside the Gettysburg-Richmond axis. And ladies and gentlemen, the Civil War happened over the course of 1,000 miles in 1,000 different places. I'm trying to bring them all to you one by one. But for now, Nashville is an awesome place. There's a lot of great entertainment venues here, as you may be aware, which we'll be reporting on. I'm Rich Gimbert, the Civil War Traveler, and I'll see you on the trail.